Just think about it for a second. The sheer amount of wealth. We're talking gold, silver, priceless jewels, just scattered across the ocean floor. And this isn't just about money. We're talking about entire fortunes that were lost to the waves. And each one has a wild story of ambition, conflict, and, well, disaster. So let's dive into the ocean's lost fortunes. This quote really nails it. It gets right to the heart of what we're exploring. We're about to dive deep into history, right into the stories of these legendary shipwrecks that have captivated treasure hunters, historians, and probably you and me for centuries. Right, so let's get into the ocean's buried secrets. And we need to be clear, these aren't just piles of rusted metal at the bottom of the sea. Nope. Each wreck is basically a time capsule, a moment frozen in time from this incredible era of empires, pirates, and really high-stakes gambles. They tell these amazing stories about a time when the world was still being mapped and fortunes, well, they were made and lost on the open sea. I mean, for centuries, you had empires and pirates alike risking absolutely everything to move unbelievable amounts of wealth across the oceans. Entire economies depended on these voyages. These ships were just loaded with riches, either plundered from colonies or earned through trade, and they were sailing across some seriously treacherous waters. They were quite literally floating banks, and that made them the ultimate prize for rival nations and, of course, any pirates looking to get rich quick. But as you can imagine, the ocean is just unforgiving. So many of these fortunes never even made it to their destination. And this is really where our story kicks off. Because whether it was the fire from naval cannons or the absolute fury of a hurricane, the ocean claimed countless ships, pulling all their treasure and all their secrets down into the abyss. So first up, treasures sunk in war. And what's really wild is that some of the most valuable wrecks out there weren't accidents at all. Nope. They were casualties of war. We're talking about deliberate attacks, naval battles, and torpedoes that sent billions of dollars in treasure straight to the seafloor. Okay, so our first story takes us all the way back to 1708. It's the middle of the War of the Spanish Succession. And you have this magnificent Spanish galleon, the San Jose, sailing through the Caribbean, just absolutely loaded with a staggering amount of wealth. Yeah, you're seeing that right. $20 billion. That's the estimated value of its cargo today. Let that sink in for a moment. This wasn't just some treasure chest. It was the funding for an entire empire's war effort. So losing it, that wasn't just losing money. It was a potential geopolitical disaster that could literally change the course of the war. So here's the scene. It's loaded with gold, silver, and jewels from mines in South America, all meant to fund the war in Europe. But then, on a fateful night, a British fleet ambushes it near Cartagena, Colombia. And during this absolutely brutal battle, the ship's gunpowder magazine gets hit. The whole thing just explodes. In an instant, the galleon, its crew, and that legendary cargo were gone, plunging into the depths. And that is why it earned the nickname the Holy Grail of Shipwrecks. And get this, in 2015, they finally discovered the wreck. But here's the incredibly frustrating part. That treasure, it's still down there. It remains unrecovered at the bottom of the sea. Why? Well, it's caught up in all these intense legal battles over who actually owns it, not to mention the sheer difficulty of pulling anything up from that deep. So for now, it's just sitting there. $20 billion just out of reach. Okay, so decades and decades later, another war, another claimed treasure. Let's jump forward to 1941. Right in the thick of World War II. A different era, a different kind of conflict, but a hauntingly similar story. This time, we're talking about a British cargo ship, the SS Garasapa. And just like the San Jose, it was carrying a precious wartime cargo when it met its end. Now, what's so fascinating is to see these two wartime wrecks side by side. You have the San Jose sunk in a classic naval battle with its $20 billion still lost. Then you have the SS Garasapa, taken down by a German U-boat, a totally modern kind of warfare. But its treasure, 200 tons of silver, was actually found and recovered. It's such a great contrast, and it proves that sometimes, just sometimes, with the right technology, the ocean does give its secrets back. But it wasn't just human conflict sinking these ships. Let's talk about the victims of the sea's own wrath. Because often the greatest enemy wasn't another ship, it was nature itself. It didn't matter how well built your vessel was or how fearsome your crew. A powerful enough storm could end everything in an instant.
And this brings us to one of the most famous pirates in history, Captain Black Sam Bellamy. They called him the Robin Hood of the Seas, and get this, he was the wealthiest pirate in history. He captured the slave ship the Whydah Galley and turned it into his flagship, loading it with an absolutely immense treasure before it was taken down by, you guessed it, a storm. I mean, just try to picture it. The Whydah Galley's treasure included 4.5 tons of gold and silver, and that was the loot from plundering over 50 other ships. The ship was basically the crowning achievement of the entire golden age of piracy.
But here's the twist. In 1717, it wasn't the Royal Navy that brought Bellamy down. It was the weather. A ferocious storm slammed into his fleet off the coast of Massachusetts. The Whydah, weighed down with all that treasure, just didn't stand a chance. It was destroyed by the waves, sealing its fate and its incredible fortune at the bottom of the ocean. And the Whydah wasn't the only victim of the waves. Let's look at the Merchant Royal, the El Dorado of the sea. It was lost in a storm way back in 1641. This ship was supposedly carrying $1 billion worth of gold and silver. And unlike the Whydah, which has actually been found, the Merchant Royal, it's still out there somewhere, a total ghost ship, and one of the biggest mysteries of the deep.
Which brings us to today, because the search is still on. Modern technology is uncovering these ancient secrets as we speak. This isn't just ancient history. The hunt for these lost fortunes is happening right now, with treasure hunters using everything from advanced sonar to deep-sea submersibles to rewrite what we thought we knew.
And this timeline just shows you the enduring hunt for this lost treasure. For centuries, ships like the Merchant Royal and the Whydah were just stories, just legends. But then look what happens. 2011, the Gearsopis silver is located. 2015, the San Jose wreck is officially identified. We're in a brand new age of discovery, and the hunt for these legends continues today.
And really, that's what this is all about. The discovery of these wrecks gives us a direct link to our past. I mean, finding the treasure is obviously exciting, but finding the ship itself, that's like opening a door. Each one is a time capsule that tells us so much about history, technology, and what human life was like back then.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? How many more stories are still waiting to be discovered down there in the deep? When you realize that most of our oceans are still completely unexplored, you have to believe that the wrecks we've found so far, well, they're probably just the tip of the iceberg. What else is down there, waiting in the darkness to be found?